I'm the director of the Agricultural Research and Education Center at Western Kentucky University there in Bowling Green. So like UK, in 2014 we began doing industrial hemp research there in Bowling Green. And I work closely with David Williams, and we did a lot of research collaboratively between Western and UK, and he was my mentor. I actually studied under him here at UK, so that was hard for me to see him leave this world a couple of months ago. But anyway, they've been UK's gracious enough to ask me to come and talk to you a little bit today, and Dr. Willen you'll meet on another tour. We've been focusing on on the aspect of weed control in hemp. We realized early on that that's going to be the number one reason for crop failure here in Kentucky is weed pressure. And so we've been trying to identify some strategies in controlling weeds. Um, so, you know, today most of the hemp here in the state is grown for CBD production. That's probably for a couple of reasons. One, CBD right now has the biggest market, but two, it pays enough money that farmers can intensively grow it using just hand roguing, hoeing, cultivation, growing hemp in plastic, or growing it in greenhouses.
The wind picks up, you're a little difficult to hear.
Okay,
So.
no problem. So that's why most of the hemp today is in Kentucky is grown for CBD production. But if you think about what probably could be the largest market for industrial hemp in the future, just based upon the uses, it would be for seed production and for fiber. It's endless possibilities what you could do with industrial hemp with those products. So obviously those are going to be a lower revenue source per acre than CBD. So farmers are going to have to maximize production and utilize it more in a field type setting like they would grow corn or soybeans. So we're in the flight pattern here today. Everybody's wanting to fly over and check out the hemp show. So that gives you a little bit of a background. I'm not going to talk a lot about herbicides. If you got some questions, I can try to answer them. I encourage you to go on the other tour and see Dr. Willen. He's going to talk specifically about what herbicides UK has been trying and what herbicides that we've been trying there at WKU. But I'm just going to give you an outlook on some of the weed problems that you can expect if you're growing industrial hemp, especially if you're growing hemp in for seed and fiber. So real quickly, these plots behind us, you've got two different types of systems. One system would be more for CBD production where they use transplants seeded with a tobacco setter, and of course those are the shorter dark green, more bushier plants. The other was planted with a cedar, what you would plant for row crops and you would be looking at harvesting seed and maybe fiber from those types of hemps. If you look at just down this row here where we've had the CBD transplants, it's pretty easy to pick out the control plot, right? You can see the giant foxtail sticking up above there. It's like the second plotting. So it's about 10 feet. If you look down through there, that's fairly easy to see. So some of the weeds that you can expect on the grass side are going to be warm season grasses and warm season annuals. A lot of them will be crabgrass and goosegrass. All right. Fortunately, those don't get really tall. Crabgrass and goosegrass will get about knee high or so. So if you're growing more fiber types or dual purpose that have some higher plant heights, if you can get the hemp out early, these weeds are going to start germinating around the first part of mid-April here in this area. Goosegrass a little bit later, but the majority of that flush and growth and germination from these weeds is going to occur in May and June. So if you can get hemp out a little bit earlier and get it up to where it'll shade the ground, these weeds have to have sunlight for the seeds to germinate. So you're probably not going to have a problem with those. Where they could be a problem is some of the shorter types of CBD types that are more bushy, they could be a problem there. Your other grassy weeds that are most likely going to be a problem in any type of crop would be the giant foxtail, which you see here. Johnson grass, which everybody is probably familiar with Johnson grass. It's one type of plant that will compete as far as growth, rate of growth with hemp. Some fall panicum would be some other type. Okay. Down the road, if we get some pesticides labeled, there are some herbicides that you can spray and take out these grasses. Okay. So yeah, they can be problematic, but we can't. We've applied some pesticides and done a good job at controlling these grasses in hemp and not damaging hemp. So we've got some herbicide chemistries available there. Where we do have a problem is when we have broadleaf weeds in hemp. And so hemp being a broadleaf plant, the physiology behind it is very similar to our broadleaf weeds. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to control. All right? If you don't do anything today when you leave, one thing you need to do is Google a picture of this weed that's called Palmer amaranth. Have you ever heard of that? If you grow soybeans, all right, in Kentucky, and corn too, but especially soybeans, you're concerned about this weed. All right? So Palmer amaranth is a type of pigweed that is, if you can't remember Palmer amaranth, just Google Roundup resistant pigweed and it'll come up. Okay? But Palmer amaranth is a pigweed that is now known to be resistant to, I think, 6, maybe even 7 different herbicide chemistry classes. All right? It's a weed that produces, one plant can produce 1 million seed. All right? And so it's very fast growing. It reproduces a bunch, so it's very easy over a period of time for it to become resistant to herbicides if we do not rotate our herbicides. Right now, we're not going to have a very good option even down the road if we start legalizing some of these herbicides. We haven't yet found a very good option to control that weed in hemp. We can barely do it in soybeans, and we have to have GMO soybeans to do that. All right, so it's going to be a big problem. Okay, so other large seeded broadleafs like cocklebur, ivy leaf warning glory, some of those that have bigger seed like hemp are going to be difficult to control. In this trial, you'll see, and Dr. Whelan will talk to you about some different pre-emergent herbicides, and some of those have been effective at suppressing grassy weeds and some of the smaller seeded broadleaf weeds, but they're not real effective at controlling large broadleaf seeds. Hemp is a relatively large seed. Okay, so guess what? We have a pre-emergent that controls a large broadleaf seed, and it's probably going to do what? It's going to keep your hemp from germinating. All right. Later on, when you speak with him, he can talk to you also about some of the pre-emergents that we've research that we've done where we've used transplants. We still see some stunning and some phytotoxicity even when we transplant where pre-emergent herbicides have been applied. So, but Palmer amaranth is going to be a big issue. What I would recommend if you haven't grown hemp or you're thinking about growing hemp for the first time, choose your location wisely. You will get weeds. That check plot there with a giant foxtail, that's a relatively low weed pressure. Some of you that's grown hemp already, I guarantee you've seen more weeds than that. So in your hemp. We definitely have down in Bowling Green. Of course, you just go a little bit south, the climate's quite a bit different than here in Lexington. But choose your location wisely. The best location I would recommend is if you could find a cornfield or a soybean field that's been in production for a few years, that you've kept pretty weed-free clean over those years, and you're going to have the best luck. Okay? The next would be to find a hay field, something like alfalfa, or a hay field that has been pretty weed-free, maybe a good orchard grass field or a fescue field that hadn't had a lot of weeds. That's going to be your second best option, right? Don't till up a pasture. Pasture generally has plenty of weeds and has a high weed seed bank, and especially where you've grown lots of vegetables in the past and there's been lots of tillage, that's not going to be a good site. You're going to have lots of weeds. So with that, I'm going to hush and answer any questions that you might have as far as what weeds you might expect or anything weed related with industrial hemp. You guys are a quiet bunch. Just real curious, how many here have already been growing hemp? Okay. How's your crops doing this year?
Looks good.
Good, good. So you're growing it for seed. Anybody growing it? Let me do this. Anybody growing it for fiber or seed production? No. Okay. So that's what our research has been focused on. You know, you think you can make paper to insulation to hardwood flooring to door panels and cars, you know, to rope and canvas. I just think there's endless possibilities there. We just got to figure out a system where we can produce it on a large scale and be successful in our establishment. So that's what we're trying to work on down in Bowling Green. All right. Any other questions? Okay, who drove the farthest today? You got a question?
Is there a standard reference for the different weeds that is easy that can be consulted with?
Yes. So the question was, can you find a standard reference for weeds that's easy to help you identify? Okay.
Yeah.
University of Kentucky will have on their weed science page, they will have basically a weed ID page. And so it will ask you some questions about the weeds and you just answer yes, no, and you keep answering yes or no questions, and then it'll eventually hopefully get you down to the weed that you're going to identify. North Carolina State has also a very good one, and Virginia Tech has a good one as well. Okay, and you know, we won't necessarily have all the same weeds as those two states have, but we'll share a lot. As always, you know, each county has a county agent, and if you can take your weed in to a county agent there, they'll hopefully help you to identify it. There's also, if you're froggy enough and you technology savvy, I should say, there is a plant ID app, and I don't know what it costs. I don't have it, but basically you snap a picture and it goes out and people identify those plants for you.
Oh,
Okay, so does anybody have that app? I don't know the name of it, but I've seen a couple people utilize that app. Luckily, most of the things I'm dealing with, I kind of know the plants and the weeds. I can identify them, but it's good for all plants. You can snap a picture of a shrub or a tree or something, and somebody will help you to identify it as well.
thank you.
All right. Another thing I might mention is you want to stay away from perennial. You want to stay away from any weed problems where you choose your location. But if you have perennial weeds, definitely stay out of those areas as well. All right. Perennial weeds are going to be harder to control than annual weeds. And later on, when we do have pesticides that are available, remember that a young juvenile weed is going to be easier to control than a large adult. Okay, so if we were going to try to control that giant foxtail there, it would be more difficult to control if we applied the herbicide a month ago when it was just young and juvenile.
So what about crops that are organic?
Crops that are organic. So yes. So there's always going to be, and with industrial hemp, a market for organic crops, and so we do have some. We're testing some organic products there at WKU. There's an animal fat that you can use to kill plants. Now it is going to kill your hemp, okay? But if you are planting, CBD hemp and you got it on 3-foot centers, or you can definitely use that product to your alleyways and so forth to keep weeds down. As long as you don't get it close to the plant or on the plant. So there's some options there. It works pretty good. It's kind of slimy. It's a little bit hard to spray, but it does do a good job. And that might be one of those that the EPA is looking at to get registered, But that's one that works pretty good. Don't necessarily have an organic to spray over the top of hemp and selectively control weeds and not control hemp yet. So, and I don't know of any possibilities, but hopefully they'll come up with one sooner or later.
What about laying down the plastic?
Laying down the plastic is good. A lot of people's doing that. So if, number one, if you had the infrastructure, I guess if you will, it'll be easiest just to grow indoors in greenhouses and pots. But if you're doing a field setting, next best thing would be black plastic with the irrigation tape underneath it. That's going to be your next bet. And that way then you could just cultivate the alleyways or take a 0-turn mower and just keep the weeds down low. All right, so weeds are going to cause competition, and the roots of a plant is directly proportional to the above ground portions of the plant. So if you can keep weeds mowed low, they're not going to have as large a root system as taller weeds, and so they will compete less for water and nutrients in the soil with your hemp. Obviously, if you can keep it cultivated, that'll be even better.
What about using something like hemp as a cover crop in between your rows?
Yes, that would work. We looked at growing cereal rye in the winter, and then killing it and crimping it over as a mulch, and we seeded into it. We didn't have any very good luck getting established, but if you were transplanting, that would be something that you would think about considering. So that's the one that I've seen utilized a lot in some other types of crops. And so they make a machine that is called a crimper that you hook. It's just a big roller that you hook behind a tractor. So you just break that, cereal rye gets about chest high, and so you break it down over, and it covers the ground. So most weeds have to have sunlight to germinate. So if you can keep the soil covered, block the sunlight as much as you can from the soil surface, you're going to have less weed problems.
You say black plastic or white plastic? You say black.
Black, I've seen black and white. Has anybody grown
A lot of it is white.
white?
In my area, but it's black underneath. It's white on black.
White on
Yeah,
black?
that's what ours is. White on top.
Yeah.
White on top.
Is it working pretty good for you?
For the ones we tested it on.
Tends to work
Just
good.
got to worry about mold on the film.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we've designed an implement that will eliminate all your weeds.
Oh, you have?
The cultivator, it not only cultivates parallel to the rows, it cultivates perpendicular to the rows and removes the weeds between the plants.
That's great.
It works for organics perfectly.
Yeah.
It'll work on any crop.
So when you have wider plant spacings, you can do those things. Another thing that I'd like to see somebody try, and some of my organic people out here, here's you an idea, okay? I'd love to see somebody use white clover and transplant hemp plants into that, because it's a legume. It's not going to get tall. You can keep mowing it, and it's going to put nitrogen in the ground. So I'd like to see somebody do that.
I'm doing that next year for the road.
Okay, well, good. If we're back here next year, you let me know.
We're up for anything.
Right. So, it'd be great, especially if you had bees. They love the white clover. We've seen some bees on hemp. Hemp doesn't produce nectar, but they will feed on pollen. But of course, you guys want it for CBD, you're not doing that. So, be kind of cool. I think that would be an excellent, you know, companion crop for hemp, would be white clover.
Okay, we're gonna move everybody up